Ethan Graves was never one for extravagant daydreams. Yet the day he received a strange telegram from Portland, his world began to tilt on an unfamiliar axis. The telegram's words were curt, as if penned with a trembling hand. "Your uncle has passed away. You are the sole heir. Come at once." It bore only an address. An imposing Victorian mansion on the outskirts of the city, where the gentle hush of morning fog met the distant roar of the sea. He had not spoken to his uncle in years. The man, an eccentric collector and rumored recluse, had always existed at the edges of Ethan's life, a spectral figure that seldom emerged from the gloom of dusty corridors and locked rooms. Upon stepping from the train, Ethan felt an inexplicable weight settle upon him. The slate-colored clouds in the sky seemed to gather above his head with quiet menace, while the wind carried brine and secrets. At the gates of the mansion, he paused. Ornate spires of black iron twisted upward, each bar topped with a stylized gargoyle that glared at the curious world beyond. Passing through, he felt the gravel crunch beneath his shoes, each step echoing like distant thunder. The front door was carved from oak, gargantuan, with a brass knocker shaped like a dragon's face. He lifted it with some effort, letting it fall once. The resulting clamor rattled through the lonely halls within. After a moment, the heavy door swung open on silent hinges. An elderly caretaker, face lined with age, beckoned him inside. The interior smelled of old books and stale air, a perfume of centuries past. Ethan was led through labyrinthine hallways lit by flickering sconces. Dust motes drifted in the feeble, wavering glow. Portraits of men and women in period attire stared down at him with indifferent eyes, and beneath each gaze, he felt something akin to a judgment, perhaps suspicion. Finally, they arrived at the study, a somber room filled floor to ceiling with shelves. In one corner, an ancient globe perched on a stand, and in another, a monstrous fireplace yawned as if expecting a hearty blaze. The caretaker left him. He stood alone with the hush. Soon, he discovered on the great oak desk a sealed envelope bearing his name. Within, he found a single key and a note scrawled in shaky ink. "Nephew, in my pursuit of wonders, I uncovered that which defies mortal comprehension. The truth lies beneath. Use the key with care." In that moment, a silent thrill passed through Ethan. He remembered scattered rumors of his uncle's obsession with arcane relics and improbable quests, travels to deserted temples, voyages upon uncharted seas. And now, here he stood, the reluctant heir to an unspoken mystery. Night fell in threads of shadow. Lantern in hand, Ethan roamed the mansion's corridors, each door bearing locks, each lock possibly waiting for the key he carried in his pocket. Then, in the dim flicker of the lantern's light, he saw a modest door tucked behind a tapestry in the eastern wing. Something urged him forward. The key slid into the lock with a click. He turned it, and the door creaked open, revealing a narrow stairway spiraling down into the bowels of the mansion. Cool, musty air wafted up, carrying a whisper of secrets long entombed. Step by careful step, Ethan descended. The walls of the stairway glistened with damp, carved stone. The hush was profound, broken only by the soft drip of condensation. Eventually, he reached a corridor at the base of the stairs, more cavern than hallway. Torches and wrought iron brackets flared to life, seemingly by their own accord. Heart pounding, Ethan pressed on. At the corridor's end, a formidable door of strange metal barred his path. He touched its surface and felt an uncanny warmth, as if the metal pulsed with hidden life. There was an archaic lock set into it, intricately wrought. Ethan gently placed the key against it. Light radiated from the point of contact. The lock turned of its own volition, and the heavy door swung inwards, revealing a vast chamber beyond. The chamber was unlike any cellar or vault Ethan had imagined. Cavernous in dimension, it was paved with polished marble that reflected the torchlight in dancing motes. Strange symbols were etched across every surface, reminiscent of alien constellations. At the center of the floor sat a podium, upon which rested something that looked like an elongated, oval container. Transparent, its surface glowed with iridescent patterns that shimmered in waves. Ethan approached cautiously. The container hovered a few inches above the podium, seemingly weightless. He couldn't take his eyes off it. This object did not belong to any earthly museum. It radiated an otherworldly beauty that both entranced and frightened him. Curiosity battled reason. Carefully, he placed a hand upon the container's smooth exterior. A faint hum coursed through his body, gentle but deliberate. The container began to open, sliding apart in silent segments, revealing within a sight that stole the breath from his lungs. Inside lay a woman. No, not quite human, for her features bore a softness and delicacy unlike any earthly countenance he had seen. Her skin was pale, tinted with a faint luminescence, and her hair shimmered like spun silver. She lay in stasis, eyes closed, as if caught in the midst of a dream. Her garments were composed of an unearthly material, diaphanous yet strong, embroidered with swirling patterns that mirrored the inscriptions on the walls. As Ethan's heart hammered, her eyes fluttered open, revealing irises of intense azure, flecked with streaks of gold. Slowly, she rose, as though the mechanism of the container had gently roused her from slumber. They gazed at one another in stunned silence. He could scarcely speak. His mind tumbled with questions, confusion, and awe. Then, in a voice as soft as a distant star's lament, she spoke. "Ethan Graves, I am Lyra of House Varen. I have long awaited your arrival. By covenant beyond this world, you are to be my bonded, my chosen, my husband." The words echoed in that hidden chamber, reverberating in the hollowness of his shock. His mind reeled. This was not possible, could not be real. Yet, there she stood, living, breathing, her words bearing the weight of absolute conviction. He wanted to speak, to question, to deny. But something within him, a kernel of faith in his uncle's cryptic pursuits, kept him silent. Before he could find the words, the torches flared brighter, illuminating the chamber's inscriptions. Symbols glowed, flaring to life as if infused with cosmic power. Lyra glanced around with urgency. She reached out and grasped his hand, slender fingers curling around his in a gesture that was both tender and desperate. "We must leave this place, dear Ethan. We have little time." Her voice carried an unmistakable plea. Though confusion roared within him, Ethan felt an unexplainable surge of protectiveness. Nodding, he guided Lyra from the chamber. Together, they raced up the spiral staircase, the air filled with a sudden, inexorable tension. Shadows twisted on the stone walls, hinting at the approach of unknown forces. Back in the mansion's corridors, the caretaker was nowhere to be seen. Darkness shrouded every corner. Thunder rumbled outside, and the windows rattled with gusts of wind. Lyra cast her eyes about, as though searching for a threat. Under the flickering glow of a single candelabra, she said quietly, "They know I am free now. They will come for us." Ethan swallowed hard, mind spinning. "Who? Who's coming for us?" "Those who wish to exploit the key you hold," she replied, her voice trembling. "Your uncle protected me, but now that the inheritance has passed to you, their watchful eyes will have shifted. Everything hinges on the bond sealed by your bloodline." A swirl of lightning lit the windows, illuminating Lyra's face. She appeared both ethereal and determined, a refugee from the stars who had awakened into a realm of ancient wood and battered stone. Ethan, half convinced he was trapped in a dream, knew one thing. Danger lurked in these halls, and something extraordinary clung to them both. Fleeing the labyrinthine passages, Ethan led Lyra to the main foyer. There, he saw the caretaker's figure sprawled on the floor, unconscious or worse. Concern flared, but Lyra pressed him onward. "We cannot linger," she said, voice agitated. "If they have come, they will not suffer our delay." The battered mansion doors swung open with a groan. Cold night air swept in, carrying droplets of rain that shimmered like molten silver. They stepped into the storm, hearts pounding. Ethan helped Lyra into his old sedan, the engine sputtering in protest as he turned the key. Headlights cut a swath through the dark driveway. Gravel scattered under the wheels, and with a surge, they sped out into the night. Behind them, unseen shapes materialized at the doors. Black silhouettes moved with uncanny grace, their motions too fluid to be human. If Ethan had looked back, he might have glimpsed the glint of metallic eyes. Thunder shattered the sky as the car roared away, each bolt of lightning revealing the sprawling mansion, a grand sentinel to hidden worlds, now left behind in dark silhouette. For a breathless stretch of road, neither Ethan nor Lyra spoke. Adrenaline still thrummed in his veins, the shock of discovering an alien bride in the bowels of a haunted mansion pressing upon him like a fever dream. He stole glances at Lyra, who stared out the window with a pensive expression. With each flash of lightning, her otherworldly beauty became more apparent, the subtle glow of her skin, the inhuman perfection of her features. When they reached the edge of the property, Ethan finally found his voice. "Lyra, what is going on? How can any of this be real?" She turned her gaze on him, sorrow and resolve dancing in her eyes. "It is real, Ethan Graves. My people, the House Varen, are far beyond the sky, but they are in peril. Long ago, one of your ancestors entered into an accord with us, one that would unite Earth's bloodline and ours, forging a link that transcends galaxies. In time, it would bring salvation to my world. That time is upon us, and you are the chosen one. The fates have aligned so that you, carrying the latent gene, are the key to our survival. I was placed in stasis to await your arrival." He tried to digest her words. Rain pounded on the roof. The windshield wipers fought against the deluge. "But how can I possibly be a key to anything? There is a rare sequence in your DNA, an inheritance from your ancestor. It is needed to activate an artifact known as the Celestial Gateway," she explained. "Without it, my people will perish, for our planet's core is dying, and only that relic can restore its life force." Ethan recalled the swirling symbols in the hidden chamber, the cosmic significance of those glowing inscriptions. The notion was insane, but the evidence sat right beside him, alive, breathing, and determined. He felt a tremor of fear at the thought of unimaginable forces trying to claim him as a tool. "Are you sure it's me? There must be someone else," he said, half hoping to deny the mantle thrust upon him. Lyra shook her head. "You are the last in your bloodline, the final chance. Were you not, I would still slumber beneath your uncle's watch." They drove on in tense silence, until the dim lights of a roadside motel appeared on the horizon. Exhausted, drenched, and weighed down by countless questions, Ethan steered the car toward the lonely building. A flickering neon sign declared vacancy, its letters sputtering in the rain. He parked beside the sagging office, headlights revealing chipped paint and cracked pavement. Inside, the clerk hardly raised an eyebrow as Ethan asked for a room. The man simply passed the register over, taking the damp bills with unhurried motions. With the key in hand, Ethan guided Lyra to the modest sanctuary of room 13, a cramped space with outdated wallpaper and a single lamp casting a weary glow. The bedspread was threadbare, but to Ethan, it was a refuge from the chaos of the night. Lyra gazed around in curiosity, fingers tracing the faded pattern of the walls. The soft hum of the overhead light seemed to fascinate her. She turned to Ethan, expression tinged with wonder. "Your world is so very different from mine," she said quietly. "But I sense your uncle's legacy here. He was an explorer, a seeker of truth." "Yeah," Ethan murmured, settling on the edge of the bed. He ran a hand through his damp hair. "He never talked to me much about it, but I always knew he was into strange stuff." She nodded. "He and others like him served as watchers, guarding me and the stasis chamber. The vow made to House Varen was never truly forgotten. Your uncle, he sought to protect me until your rightful arrival." Ethan took a shuddering breath, his mind swirling with images of the hidden vault, the swirling lights, and the predatory figures that now hunted them. "What do we do now?" he finally asked. "We can't just... I don't know the first thing about traveling to another galaxy or saving a planet's core." Lyra approached him, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. "We must find a way off this world, Ethan. There are allies among my people who can help us. But we must hurry. The ones who pursue us will not relent. They want the key in your blood to use it for their own ends." He met her gaze, drawn in by the sincerity that shone in her eyes. "All right, but how? That's not exactly something you book with an airline." She offered a faint, tremulous smile. "Your uncle had hidden means. I sense that we must return to the estate, but not the mansion itself. Somewhere on the grounds, there must be a place that touches the veil between your world and the cosmos. A dimensional breach or a hidden apparatus. We'll find it, and with it, we can call my people." The thought of returning to that haunted estate so soon made Ethan's stomach clench. He remembered the caretaker, the monstrous silhouettes, the storm-lashed darkness. Yet, Under Lyra's steady gaze, he found a growing ember of courage. Somewhere in the swirl of fear, uncertainty, and awe, he realized that fate, for better or for worse, had beckoned him to a grand adventure. One that not even the wildest corners of his imagination could have devised. He sighed, forcing a shaky grin. All right, if we're going to do this, let's rest for a few hours. Then we'll figure out a plan. Lyra nodded, and Ethan sank onto the bed, exhaustion flooding him. As the rain thumped on the roof and the wind whispered through the motel's cracks, he closed his eyes. Images of swirling stars and alien palaces filled his mind. He felt Lyra's presence near him, an ethereal glow in the gloom. Soon, he slipped into a fitful sleep. Yet, his dreams were scattered shards of cosmic vistas, haunting eyes, and a promise that bound two worlds together. Morning arrived with a veil of gray cloud draped over the horizon. Ethan woke on the lumpy motel bed, startled by the jolt of memory that came rushing back. Lyra, the Watchers, the mansion's hidden chamber. Yet there she sat in the small armchair by the curtained window, gazing quietly at the daylight. Her luminous features looked almost human in the muted glow, except for the faint opalescence beneath her skin. She glanced over as Ethan stirred. "Did you rest well?" she asked softly, as though mindful of fragile peace. He blinked the sleep from his eyes, recalling the narrow escape from the mansion the night before. "As well as I could," he said, swinging his legs off the bed. Outside, the rain had softened to a drizzle. He couldn't shake the ominous feeling that the Watchers might find them at any moment. "We can't stay here," he added, voice hushed. Lyra nodded, relief mingling with apprehension in her gaze. "We must return to your uncle's estate, but not openly. Somewhere beneath the grounds is a passage leading to the star apparatus. If we can reach it before the Watchers catch us, we can send a signal to my people." Ethan hesitated, still shaken by how quickly his life had upended. "You're sure there's no other way?" "No," Lyra answered. "My ancestors would not have left me here without a path home, but it is hidden deep in the estate. I believe your uncle maintained it in secret. If we are clever, we may slip in undetected." She explained that a caretaker loyal to her cause had watched over the mansion in his uncle's stead, ensuring no one else discovered the stasis chamber. That caretaker was now missing, or worse, and the Watchers likely had eyes on every visible route to the estate. They agreed to gather only the barest essentials. After rummaging through the motel's sparse offerings, Ethan found a battered duffel bag and stuffed in some food, flashlights, and a small first aid kit. He had little else to rely on except the will to protect Lyra and unravel the inheritance's dark secret. They slipped out, paying the clerk for the room in cash. Stepping into the drizzle, Ethan felt the chill seep into his bones. The sedan awaited, dented from the frantic flight through the mansion's driveway, but still operational. Its tank was half full. With a silent nod to Lyra, he pulled onto the road. Navigating by back roads and little-traveled lanes, they circled wide around the main highway. The sky remained a uniform shade of gray, threatening renewed rainfall. Occasionally, Lyra glanced at a small metallic device she carried, its surface etched with symbols that glowed faintly. She frowned. "They are close, perhaps searching the larger routes. We may be fortunate if we keep to these lesser byways." After an hour of tense driving, they arrived at a secluded bend in a narrow road. Tall pines loomed on either side, blocking the wind. Beyond the trees rose the faint outline of the Victorian mansion's spires, a silhouette against the dreary sky. Ethan killed the engine, letting the car roll to a stop in a small clearing. "From here, we go on foot," he said. "It's safer to leave the car hidden." They stepped outside and set off through the wet undergrowth, ducking branches, muddy ground squelching beneath their boots. The air smelled of damp pine. Each rustle in the foliage made Ethan's heart pound, half expecting a Watcher to leap out. But only the soft drizzle accompanied them, beating on Lyra's coat with silver droplets. As they neared the estate's border, they found the old wrought iron fence. Thick vines wound through its bars, and a rusted gate stood partially ajar, listing on broken hinges. Beyond lay a stretch of neglected garden, overgrown with weeds and brambles. They crept through, mindful of their every step. The mansion itself loomed ahead, its facade dark with moisture, windows reflecting the somber day. No lights shone within. Uncertainty gnawed at Ethan, but Lyra's resolve buoyed him. She pointed toward the east wing, where a collapsed greenhouse jutted from the side of the property. There was once a door hidden beneath that structure. It may lead to an underground corridor. Hunched against the drizzle, they crossed the garden, forging a path around mossy stone statues whose features had eroded into eerie shapes. At length, they reached the greenhouse, its glass panels shattered, the framework choked with dead vines. Carefully, they lifted a rotten plank to reveal a small hatch in the foundation. It was locked with an intricate mechanism. Ethan tried the key from his uncle's envelope, but it refused to turn. After several frustrating attempts, Lyra brushed his hand aside. "Let me try," she murmured. Placing her palm over the lock, she whispered words Ethan did not recognize. A faint shimmer pulsed, and then, with a groan of metal, the lock yielded. The hatch swung open, revealing a cramped ladder descending into darkness. Lyra's eyes met Ethan's. "Are you ready?" He exhaled unsteadily. "I guess we'll find out." Down they went, flashlights in hand. The air smelled of damp earth and decay. Roots protruded from the earthen walls, occasionally brushing their shoulders. At the bottom, a narrow corridor stretched into the gloom, supported by wooden beams. Water dripped somewhere, echoing through unseen passages. They moved forward, their footsteps carefully measured. The corridor branched several times, but Lyra seemed guided by an uncanny sense, pausing now and then to consult her device. Finally, they reached a heavy door of aged iron. It bore the same cryptic markings Ethan had seen in the stasis chamber. This time, his key fit the lock. The door creaked open, revealing a small room lit by the faint glow of orb-like sconces set into the walls. Ethan's heart caught in his throat. The architecture here was eerily reminiscent of the hidden vault. Polished stone floors, alien symbols carved into pillars, and far ahead, an archway that shone with latent energy. "This must be it," he whispered, stepping inside. Lyra moved to a dais in the center of the chamber. A panel of smooth metal rose from the floor, covered in glyphs. She traced her fingertips across them, each symbol lighting at her touch. "If the Watchers haven't found this place," she murmured, "we may still have time." A rustling behind them made Ethan spin around. The caretaker, the same elderly figure who had welcomed him, stood in the doorway, his face drawn and weary. A bruise marred his temple. "You must hurry," he gasped. "They are here. I tried to lead them astray, but they've tracked you." Ethan felt a surge of both relief and alarm. "You're alive? Thank goodness. But where are they?" A low rumble from somewhere above answered him, followed by a faint tremor through the stone floor. The caretaker's expression darkened. "They've split up. Some searched the mansion, others probed the gardens. They'll be upon us soon. If you need time, I will buy it." He hobbled forward, pressing a small iron ring into Ethan's hand. "Your uncle instructed me to guard this. It may help you unlock the final portion of the gate. Go." Without waiting for thanks, the caretaker retreated up a side passage, limping but resolute. Ethan gripped the ring, mind racing. Lyra motioned him over. "Place it into the slot here," she said, pointing to a small depression on the dais. "We must link our energies, yours and mine." He set the ring into the slot. It sank, as though drawn by magnetism. A hum filled the chamber. The dais flared with shimmering light, coalescing into the outline of a portal. Lyra pressed her hand against a glowing panel, then beckoned Ethan to do the same. When their palms met the surface, arcs of lambent energy danced around them. Pain shot through Ethan's arm, accompanied by a tidal wave of dizziness. He gasped, fighting to keep his focus. Next to him, Lyra clenched her jaw, her face contorted with concentration. Symbols whirled across the panel, resonating with the ring's power and with something deep in Ethan's very cells. Then, abruptly, the dais pulsed. A swirling, translucent vortex materialized, suspended in the center of the archway. Ethereal winds whipped at Ethan's hair, and a starlit vista flickered within the portal, a glimpse of alien skies and luminous spires. Lyra's eyes glistened with tears. "My home," she whispered, voice trembling. A clamor broke out in the corridor, shouts, scuffling footsteps. The Watchers had arrived. Ethan scrambled to pick up a rusted pipe from the floor, but Lyra caught his hand. "We can't fight them all. We must go now," she urged. As if on cue, a dark figure lunged out of the entrance. Black-clad, face obscured by a metallic visor, the Watcher brandished a crackling weapon. With reflexes born of desperation, Ethan swung the pipe. Sparks flew as the Watcher's weapon collided mid-swing. Pain jarred through Ethan's arms. Another figure appeared, leveling a pistol-like device that emitted a hiss of charged energy. Suddenly, the caretaker charged back, ramming the second Watcher with a shoulder tackle. "Go!" he shouted, voice echoing through the vaulted chamber. The Watchers snarled, regaining their balance, weapons raised. Ethan knew they stood no chance in a prolonged fight. He grabbed Lyra's hand, heart pounding. They plunged through the portal, the shimmering vortex washing over them like liquid light. A disorienting sensation enveloped Ethan, as though he were tumbling through space and time. He felt Lyra's grip tighten, anchoring him in the chaos. Then, with a rush of cold air, they stumbled onto solid ground, though not of earth. Pale sand crunched beneath Ethan's boots, and a lavender sky arched overhead, studded with unfamiliar constellations. He braced himself, dizzy, trying to catch his breath. Looking around, he saw dunes that glowed faintly, reflecting the sky's strange hue. In the distance, spires of crystalline rock reached skyward, shimmering in the soft light of twin moons. They had arrived on Lyra's homeworld. She sank to her knees, tears of relief streaming down her cheeks. "We made it," she breathed, her voice choked with emotion. "House Varen, we are home." Before Ethan could respond, a group of slender, silver-haired figures emerged from behind a rise in the sand. Each wore flowing garments, embroidered with designs that echoed the symbols in the mansion vault. They moved gracefully, eyes shining with recognition and astonishment. One, clearly a leader, raised a hand in greeting, speaking in a melodious tongue Ethan did not understand. Lyra answered in kind, her words carrying the resonance of returning kin. As they approached, the leader's attention shifted to Ethan. Curiosity and wariness mingled in the alien's eyes. Lyra stood, placing a reassuring hand on Ethan's shoulder. "This is the one our prophecies foretold," she said, speaking their language with a lilting accent. "He bears the key within his bloodline, the promise to restore our world's failing heart." The robed alien inclined his head in respectful welcome. "We have awaited you both. Come, there is much to share, and our time grows short." They led Ethan and Lyra across the dunes toward a distant city of spires, each structure seeming half-grown from living crystal. As they drew closer, Ethan marveled at the intricate bridges and hovering platforms linking the towers. Paths of light connected them, forming shifting mosaics in the air. Everything shimmered, as though touched by stardust. Yet even in its splendor, Ethan sensed a heaviness here, a subtle tremor in the ground, a slight dimming in the vibrant colors. It was as though the entire planet exhaled a weary sigh. A grand hall awaited them, supported by columns that refracted light into rainbows dancing across the polished floor. Representatives of House Varen clustered around an ornate dais. In the center of it hovered a colossal orb, swirling with misty patterns that mirrored the alien sky. Lyra explained that this was the Heartstone, a conduit linked to the planet's core. Long ago, the ancient alliance with Ethan's ancestor had infused the Heartstone with Earth's genetic imprint, forging a lifeline between the two worlds. But now that lifeline faltered. The orb's luminescence was waning, its pulse erratic. Elderly sages in shimmering robes crowded around, each face etched with concern. Lyra took Ethan's hand and guided him to the Heartstone. "Place your palm upon it," she whispered. "It must sense your bond." Nerves frayed, Ethan stepped forward. The orb thrummed softly. Gently, he pressed his hand against its surface. Warmth spread through his arm, coursing like liquid fire. A surge of memories flickered in his mind. His uncle's mansion, the Watchers, Earth's swirling oceans, the stasis chamber. And beyond that, glimpses of times long past, of an ancient vow that bridged two worlds across the gulf of space. A hushed murmur rose from the assembled aliens. The Heartstone glowed brighter, responding to the latent gene in Ethan's blood. The swirling mists within churned, intensifying into a radiant shimmer. Tears glistened in Lyra's eyes. She joined her hand with Ethan's on the orb, adding her own resonance. "Guide your thoughts to healing," she said, voice trembling with urgency. Imagine the planet strong, the Watchers banished, and the alliance renewed. The hall's air vibrated with energy. The ground shook slightly, as if the planet's core roused from restless slumber. For a moment, Ethan's mind filled with brilliant light. He sensed the planet's pain, a slow collapse in the core, a sickening drain that threatened all life here. Clenching his teeth, he focused on the memory of Earth's resilience, of the unstoppable fervor of humanity, of the caretaker's unwavering loyalty. He poured that determination into the Heartstone. Then came a flash, as though lightning had struck the orb. A beacon of pure brilliance shot from its center, spiraling upward through the ceiling. The Watchers recoiled in awe, shielding their eyes. Lyra's voice rose in a triumphant cry, her silver hair whipping in the vortex of power. The Heartstone pulsed like a beating heart, each throb sending waves of luminous energy radiating through the hall, through the city, and deep into the planet's core. When at last the light receded, Ethan staggered back, dizzy and breathless. The orb's swirl had stabilized, glowing with renewed vigor. The tremors beneath the floor ceased, replaced by a gentle hum of harmony. The gathered aliens erupted in cheers, tears, and exultant song. The leader bowed low to Ethan, voice resonant with gratitude. Earthborn, you have awakened our Heartstone. House Varen stands indebted. We shall fortify the gate, ensuring no darkness may exploit its path between our worlds. Lyra's arms enfolded Ethan in a trembling embrace. He felt her heartbeat, swift and strong against his chest. A quiet contentment settled over him, as though fate's tapestry had finally unveiled its most precious design. That evening, in a candlelit chamber open to the alien sky, Lyra and Ethan pledged themselves to one another. Not as strangers bound by cosmic treaty, but as two souls who had braved uncertainty together. Alien dignitaries looked on with kind smiles, while the twin moons cast silver halos across the glimmering city. A hush fell as Lyra's voice, melodic and soft, offered a vow in her people's tongue. Ethan, mustering courage and heart, echoed it in earnest, sealing a promise that bridged two worlds as surely as any ancient covenant. The Watchers were not wholly vanquished, and shadows of conflict still simmered beyond the horizon. Yet House Varen had found its new champion, and Earth had discovered a gateway to wonders unimagined. In the days ahead, alliances would be tested and new bonds forged across the stars. But for this moment, at least, joy reigned in the realm of House Varen and in the heart of Ethan Graves, former heir to a mysterious mansion, now wedded to the destiny of a world reborn. But fate rarely allowed a simple conclusion. 2 nights after Ethan and Lyra arrived on House Varen's homeworld, a shrill alarm shattered the hush of alien twilight. Master Orion burst into their quarters, eyes wide with dread. "The Watchers," he gasped. "They have found a way to breach the portal again." Within minutes, Ethan and Lyra reached the Citadel's grand foyer. Guards bearing gleaming staves clashed with sleek, dark figures who darted through the corridors with uncanny speed. The Watchers, somehow transported across the cosmic divide, were bent on seizing or corrupting the Heartstone, eager to twist House Varen's renewed life force to their own designs. Lyra stood at the entrance to the Heartstone chamber, silver hair lifting as she conjured a shimmering barrier. Light pulsed from her outstretched palms, holding back 2 Watchers whose weapons crackled with malevolent force. Yet each bolt that struck her barrier weakened it, spiderweb fractures dancing across the protective field. She gritted her teeth, fighting to keep it intact. "Ethan," she cried, voice taut. "They're trying to drain the Heartstone's energy. I can't hold them much longer." Heart pounding, Ethan seized a fallen guardian's staff. "I'm here," he called, rushing forward. The Watchers wore ebony cloaks woven with alien fibers that flickered in and out of visibility, making them seem like living shadows. One pivoted, leveling a strange rifle that emitted silent bursts of blazing light. Ethan dove behind a crystalline pillar, shards exploding around him as the shot grazed the surface. In a swirl of robes, Master Orion and 3 other guardians joined him. "Form a circle," Orion commanded. "Channel your energies together." They complied, staves raised high. At Orion's signal, they unleashed a pulse of combined radiance that collided with the Watchers, forcing them back a dozen paces. Sparks showered the polished floors. The watchers hissed in frustration. One of them, taller than the rest, lifted a gauntlet hand, releasing an orb that pulsed with swirling darkness. Ethan's stomach knotted as he recognized the orb's sickly glow from the battle in the mansion vault. If it reached the Heartstone, it could corrupt the entire chamber. He broke formation, sprinting to intercept. "No," he yelled, staff aimed. Summoning every ounce of resolve, he fired a concentrated burst of light. The orb lurched off course, slamming into a side archway in an explosion of black energy that left the stone spattered with a vile residue. Seizing the opportunity, Lyra's barrier flared white-hot, pushing the remaining watchers farther from the Heartstone's dais. Straining against the feedback, she cried out in pain. Ethan rushed to her side, staff braced. "I'll cover you," he said through clenched teeth. The watchers regrouped, each brandishing weapons glimmering with charged power. The acrid tang of scorched crystal filled the air. Guardian lines closed in, flanking the watchers from both sides. A volley of luminous bolts rained down, and at last, the watchers began to falter. One after another, they either fell to the Guardian's skill or activated small devices that cloaked them in swirling veils, allowing them to vanish into side corridors. Faint echoes of footsteps told Ethan some watchers still roamed the Citadel's halls, but for the moment, the Heartstone chamber was safe. Lyra collapsed to her knees, gasping for breath. The barrier shimmered, then faded into droplets of light. Ethan knelt beside her, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Are you all right?" She nodded, though her face was pale. "They aim to poison our Heartstone again, to unravel all we've done." Master Orion approached, brow knit with worry. "A few watchers remain at large in the city. We will track them, but your presence here is vital, Ethan. Should they attempt to sabotage the Heartstone once more, you and Lyra may be our only hope of cleansing it." A tremor passed through the floor, subtle yet unmistakable. Ethan glanced anxiously at the Heartstone, which flickered with a faint ripple of unease. "We can't let them do any more damage," he muttered. Lyra forced herself to stand, resting a hand on the orb's surface. Her eyes drifted shut, and a gentle glow enveloped her fingertips. "I can sense the Heartstone's distress. It remains stable, but there are shadows laced within it now, echoes of the Watcher's interference." Behind them, more Guardians hurried in, carrying the wounded. Some lay unconscious, injuries inflicted by the Watcher's exotic weaponry. Anger and sorrow churned in Ethan's chest. He recalled Earth's battles fought for lesser causes, the unstoppable drive of those who refused to bow to tyranny. Now he stood on a faraway world, facing a threat that transcended borders and species. Determination flared within him. This place had given him purpose, shown him the breadth of a cosmic vow. He would not abandon it to ruin. Master Orion gestured to a group of robed attendants. "Seal every portal in and out of the Citadel. None save our own may pass until the Watchers are found." Ethan turned to Lyra. "How can I help you cleanse the orb?" She met his gaze, gratitude shining despite her fatigue. "Hold my hand. Focus on the vow that connects you to House Varen. Your bloodline's inheritance is woven into the Heartstone's design. Together, we can repair the scars they tried to inflict." Nodding, Ethan took her hand. At once, a gentle warmth pulsed from the orb, flowing along his arm. He felt the bond from that fateful day in the mansion vault, when he had first laid eyes on the stasis chamber. Now, that bond thrummed with new life, bridging two worlds in an unbreakable covenant. Lyra began chanting softly, her voice lilting in the hush. Threads of white gold light emanated from the Heartstone, intertwining with the bruised shadows that still clung to its core. Slowly, painstakingly, the darkness receded. At last, the Heartstone's radiance stabilized. Exhausted but relieved, Lyra sagged against Ethan's shoulder. Applause and murmurs of solace spread among the Guardians. They knew the Watchers were not beaten, but the city had been spared a fatal blow this night. "You should rest," Master Orion urged gently, ushering them away from the dais. "We will see to the rest of the search. Your bond is precious. Without it, we cannot hope to keep the Heartstone untainted." Led to a nearby chamber with arched windows overlooking the shimmering cityscape, Ethan and Lyra finally allowed themselves a moment to breathe. The twin moons cast pale light upon their weary faces. In the distance, search parties combed the streets, determined to flush out the remaining watchers. Lyra nestled close, her eyes heavy with fatigue. "Thank you," she whispered. "I know this must be overwhelming. There was a time I believed my people were beyond saving. Now, seeing you here, fighting beside us." He brushed a stray lock of hair from her cheek, feeling the gentle warmth of her glow. "I'm exactly where I need to be," he said softly. "We'll make sure they can never threaten your home again." A fragile peace settled over them. Outside, the city rose tall and proud against the alien night, each spire a testament to endurance. Though watchers still lurked in hidden corners, House Varen stood united, poised to defend its precious life force. And somewhere beneath the swirling stars, Earth too had a stake in this cosmic struggle, bound by ancient promise and the courage of one man who had once been a mere heir to an odd inheritance. For now, Ethan and Lyra drew strength from one another, their hands entwined, hearts steady. The future held battles yet unwon, but in that quiet, moonlit chamber, they found the hope that had eluded their darkest hours, a conviction that when two worlds share a promise, not even the blackest shadows can wholly eclipse its light. In the days that followed, House Varen rallied around Ethan and Lyra, celebrating the renewed vigor of their beloved planet. Messages of thanks poured in from distant cities, each rejoicing that the tremors beneath the land had eased, that the once ailing rivers now flowed with new vitality. Ethan could barely believe he had played a part in such a monumental shift. Yet each time doubt seized him, Lyra's gentle reminder and the adoring smiles of the Varen children reassured him that his role was neither mistake nor accident, but destiny fulfilled. Amid the Citadel's ancient halls, scholars and guardians convened, discussing the threats still posed by the Watchers who had pursued Ethan across the cosmos. Through the newly fortified alliances, they vowed that House Varen would stand guard over the restored gateway, ensuring no hostile force could exploit its power. From this day forward, a fresh sense of unity blossomed among the Varen, one that extended beyond their borders, embracing the precious bond they now shared with Earth. Yet for Ethan, the most profound reward was simpler still. On a tranquil evening, beneath the twin moons and the shimmering tapestry of unfamiliar constellations, he took Lyra's hand. Their vows, first spoken in a hidden vault beneath an old Victorian mansion, were reaffirmed here on her home world, a promise between two souls bound by fate. The ceremony was humble, witnessed only by a circle of friends and guardians, but it sparkled with hope for all that was yet to come. No matter what challenges awaited them, be it the Watchers or the vast unknown of the galaxy, they would face it together, their hearts and worlds forever intertwined. And in that quiet, starlit moment, Ethan Graves felt a profound sense of peace and belonging, knowing he had found both his purpose and his home within Lyra's loving gaze.